Greetings, everyone. Glad that you're here with us today, Sunday, November 7th. And, when I reflect, people are coming, then why are we gathering together virtually in person? Why do we come together in a situation like this? Well, we may want to learn something about Buddhist thought, Buddhist practice. We might want to just be with other people, which is important. I think, though, that behind this also is a wish to explore what we might hear that could be helpful to us in our lives, in our relationships, in our work. That's really very significant desire for most of us. And we are hoping and aspiring to offer things that are concretely helpful and do so with inspiration from some of the teachings that we have been practicing ourselves for a long time. And as you know, this cycle of teaching at Dawn Mountain on our Tuesdays of Dharma explorations and our first Sundays, and not only our first Sundays, we've been reflecting on what it means to engage in the Bodhisattva path, a path of love and connection to oneself, to the best parts of oneself, especially to one's joy, one's basic goodness. How do we do that? And we have a teaching of 6, we could say, clusters of basic goodness, often referred to as the 6 perfections, or even the 6 transcendences. So a moment to think about what this business about perfection and transcendence is. They're a little bit daunting. It might sound a little bit different than the more comfortable feeling that I want to learn what I can do, how I can be, that's more in tune with what I feel my deepest core actually is. I'm not pretending, acting for the benefit of others. I want to know how it is to be the best version of me, not someone else. So in the Buddhist teachings, we have these 6 hallmarks of goodness, and they're called perfections or transcendences because they are ways of step by step, little by little, getting free of some of the habit patterns, the tendencies that actually, while they feel very readily to come forth, to be angry, to be jealous, to be hurt, this happens very easily. And yet, that's not the bottom of who we are. And we like to be in touch with some part of our being that is more resonant with joy, with inspiration, which is just relaxed also. Not always worried, always stressed. So I think it's fair to say in a more modern language that when we cultivate these states, these perfections, these qualities of giving, wholesomeness, often called ethics, generosity, wholesome behavior, patience, enthusiasm for virtue, often translated as effort, calm concentration, and wisdom. All of these are ways of freeing ourselves from habits that sometimes feel necessary, but when we look more deeply into it, we realize that being miserly doesn't make me feel good. Being mean, sometimes it just comes out and we feel we're retaliating and out of some necessity, but does it make you feel good? Does it make you feel more easy in your life? Since we spoke last time on the first Sunday of October, we have been reflecting on particularly patience and enthusiasm for goodness. So a word or two about patience. We know what patience is because we know what impatience is. Patience is not getting caught up in the things that might make us irritable, especially that might bring us to a wish to harm others. When we say that patience is the opposite of anger, it doesn't mean to be patient with wrongs that need to be righted. People are hungry, people are abused, people are wrongly treated. That's not something to be patient about. That's something to do our best to alter. Patience is the opposite of wanting to harm. That gets translated as this word anger in English, but in English, anger means a whole lot of things. Oh, heck, we say. Oh, my favorite ice cream's used up. Somebody else ate it. That's not what we're talking about when we're cultivating patience. To cultivate patience is to live in a greater state of ease, not a state of numbness or dumbness, but yeah, things happen. Terrible things happen. It's not okay. It's okay to feel they're not okay. That's not what impatience means. Impatience is really about being galvanized to wish to harm, whatever form that might take: teasing, bullying, mocking, ignoring, harsh word or two, certain kind of glance. These are qualities. All of these 6 are qualities: giving, ethics, patience, effort, concentration, and wisdom, are always to move toward our ultimate aspiration as practitioners, or at least an aspiration that we aspire to, to be of benefit in the world. What is more rewarding than that, really? We like praise, we like money, we like people saying nice things to us. But at the end of the day, when nobody's praising, when you just lay down your head to go to sleep, to die, what is most satisfying? What is more satisfying? It's an exploration. It's a meditation. How you feel about this? What is more satisfying than feeling that you've done something that is of some benefit, however small? Bodhisattva takes joy, or those of us training to be a bodhisattva takes great joy. And, maybe you smiled at someone who doesn't usually get smiled at or look like they needed a smile. You didn't do it for money or fame. It was out of kindness. Kindness feels good in the heart. Keeping this good feeling in the heart is what all of these 6 are about. So with patience, we have an issue, because we may aspire to patience, but then sooner or later, if we're normal people, ordinary people, we bust out of that bubble and we feel angry and maybe even ready to, maybe not actually harm, but a little bit to wish, or a little bit something lousy happens to somebody who did something nasty to you. Oh, there might be a feeling of, a little satisfaction. So there's 2 things going on here from the sutras. Nathaniel and Renee on our Tuesday nights have been really giving wonderful talks and introducing sutras that I haven't read, because in Tibetan tradition, we often don't read sutras that much, actually, even though we praise them. We don't read them. We read commentaries on them. And also many, many, many have not been translated. Just some are being translated now by the group called the 84,000. Nathaniel's one of the people who's translating it. So we have most of the sutras are about conversations, which is very relatable. That's how we learn. We talk to people. We say, well, I know I'm not supposed to be wishing harm to anybody. I'm not supposed to be impatient, but I am. What am I going to do? And there's two things that come up in the sutras. One, inspiration, and the other, a kind of encouragement to how you can make progress step by step, little by little. So a fellow named Srivasu comes to the Buddha one day and says, how many people have attained full awakening? Because he's wondering how rare it is. You know, if only one person or two out of billions and billions of living beings have ever done it, doesn't look so good for me. The Buddha says without hesitation, hundreds and hundreds of thousands, endless numbers of beings have achieved full awakening, full freedom from the ties that bind us badly, not the ties that bind in a good way. Hang us up. Oh, says Srivasu, well, if that many people have done it, you know, like if you have a whole lot of friends who succeed in something or another, you start to think, well, why not me? Why shouldn't I? And that's what Srivasu thinks. He feels, oh, why shouldn't I do it? Why shouldn't I be able? It's not so impossible. Countless beings have done it before me. We get encouraged by things like that. So that's inspiration, a kind of devotion to what could be possible for you. You. That's one side of things. And then another side of things is, yeah, but here I am after this very positive intention being developed, you know, such and such happened to so-and-so, and I'm not sorry. Whoops. There you have the remedy right there. If you say, whoops, when we do something that we recognize as negative, which happens all the time, shame, blame, we're not headed there. The energy of shame and blame, we could turn in a different way and say, well, you know, I couldn't help it. I just couldn't help it. I felt that way. I feel that way. But what can I do? Buddha says, well, you can proceed step by step, little by little, just by recognizing that what you did wasn't that great. That's right then and there, putting you in alignment with the highest possible ideal. Now, notice Buddha doesn't say, go sit in a corner and hang your head. Don't tell anybody what you did or thought. He doesn't say that. In fact, what he says is the opposite. He says, when you recognize that you've done something wrong, acknowledge it. Acknowledge it to yourself. If you're in a formal Buddhist practice, there are, you know, practices that we do where we acknowledge to ourselves and to, the awakened beings who we imagine or experience are actually around us. And we say, I did it. It really wasn't good. I'm going to try not to do it again. In that way, Buddha says, we are little by little, step by step, making our way toward this big, big idea of perfection. The other shore, it's a metaphor. The real, literally, perfection is the parchin. It literally means going over to the other shore of this samsaric, habitual, kind of coarse way of being in the world that makes us and other people unhappy on a regular basis. So, you know, we have some kind of energy sometimes when we realize, I did something wrong. Renee said a very nice thing on one of our Tuesdays, just this last one, you know, that, yeah, we have a lot of energy. How is it going to manifest? Well, it could manifest toward beating yourself up. We don't recommend it. Buddha didn't recommend it. He didn't say beat yourself up. He said acknowledge it to yourself, to an awakened being, to a teacher, to a friend, if you like, just as a way of knowing that, okay, I did this, but I'm not totally identified with it. I'm not getting on that horse and riding it. I'm saying, oh, whoops, I'm sorry. If you hurt somebody also through some form of anger, you might find it helpful to say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. That's already, we're crossing the ocean of some sort. Nice, no? It's just like people talking together. I like this feeling of the sutras very much. When people feel they have a problem, they go to the Buddha and they say, what can I do about this? And that's how the sutras emerge. Buddha just responding to questions. People like us wondering what we can do a little better. So then there's the next perfection, which is often translated as effort. Not such a good translation. The definition, the Shantideva famously, and the whole tradition following Shantideva, says, what is meant by this particular perfection, this particular transcendence? It means taking delight in what is wholesome, enthusiasm for what is wholesome. Wholesome enthusiasm would be a really great translation. It just feels better. I even like the word wholesome for what is often translated as virtue or virtuous, which for my ear, and this might differ across generations, virtue sounds like something stiff and tight. I don't think that's necessarily what it means. It comes from the Latin virus, manly, kind of successful in a particular kind of way. It's come to mean virtue in English. Virtue, if you really think about what it is a kind of goodness. And what does goodness do? It helps make us whole. Whole in the sense that when we act in a positive way that we feel is in alignment with, some deeper part of ourself than is irritable or unhappy or, maybe traumatized, depressed. I'm not saying these things are untoward to feel. We all feel them. But in hearing, like Srivasu did, that so many people have awakened from this before, we may start to feel, and even just in our own practice, as we're about to practice, you're about to practice, just being with yourself, a certain kind of ease and relaxation. You might ask yourself at any point when you feel settled, watching your breath, is that preferable to you than being all agitated and out to get someone, or fretting, stressing? Watching your breath with good intention to somehow create a more beneficial modality in yourself it's virtuous. And it's also wholesome in the sense that there's a way that some of these negative responses that we have, even though they just come forward without us trying at all, they feel natural in some way. They're habitual for sure. But there's also a way, at least I feel, you see what you feel, that they put a barrier up between, the me that's just sometimes comfortable, happy enough, okay, accepting, relaxed, even in the midst of a tumultuous world, a COVID world. Sometimes we are. But these kinds of, they're actually called obstacles, veils, like they stand in the way of us being in touch with our own capacity for ease. And one of the things we learn through sitting and watching our breath, through just sounding home, feeling that your heart just naturally has, as if pulled in from all of space, a kind of natural energy to send out a home without anything impeding or blocking. Attention flows to your breath. That gets distracted, it comes back, flows to your breath. Sound flows from your heart out your throat. It's a feeling of a certain kind of wholeness. In those moments, you're not divided against yourself. You're just doing this one thing, not doubting whether you should or shouldn't do it, or wishing you did it better, or wishing somebody else did it differently. It's a kind of wholeness. Wholeness is really precious. So we can think of this enthusiasm for wholeness as something perhaps quite attractive. And even if we fall to pieces over and over again, we do, we know that, we can kind of perforate that habit just by sometimes sitting like we're about to do, letting it all go, allowing yourself to relax. Allowing ease and relaxation is maximally important. It's healthy. It reduces stress. Health and wholeness are cognate terms. Wholeness supports health. So when you're sitting watching your breath, that's all you need to do. You can let go of judgment. Nobody's grading you. Everybody gets distracted sometimes. It means you're alive. It's okay, you bring your mind back. You sound home, home, home at whatever tone and pace feels good to you, so that it feels good. And if you unmute, it might be a little static, but then you get to hear other people sounding home, and it all kind of swells together. It's another kind of wholeness. So I offer these reflections to you on patience and enthusiasm for wholeness as a way of moving forward in your path, your journey, your life, wherever that is headed, that it may go better, that you may be a more positive influence on others as you journey forth together. That's what's always happening in life. We're moving forward in time and space. So to move with patience, to be able to, when we become impatient, say, oops, sorry, and go on, little by little, step by step, becoming more and more whole and complete, and in that sense, perfect. Delighting in wholesomeness. Maybe you just, at the end of the day, think about the things you did that were good and take joy. Be delighted. Oh, I did that. Yeah, good job. All right, then. Have a little break, and then we'll come back, and there will be a recording from one of our previous meditations. And take that as an opportunity to just be how you are, relaxed. Wishing you well. Thank you.